Hi guys, this is Carrie with Fullerton Professional Organizing, and today we have a guest today, and she is also a professional organizer, and she is in a unique place right now for this interview, and she'll tell you all about it. But I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself and tell you about where she's at and why she's wearing sunglasses.
Hello, everybody. Major Mom in the house. I'm in Tampa, Florida. I flew in today from Chicago to work with a client that I moved from Indiana. So they've been in Florida for a few years and they called me crying. They need me to help declutter and stage their house again because her husband lost his job and they only wanted to work with me, Major Mom. So I'm like, okay, I've been on the road for 2 months organizing as a mission trip in California, organizing for pastors. I've been in 4 time zones, and that is why I have landed being here in a parking garage at the in Tampa, Florida, waiting for my clients to pick me up at 3 o'clock so that we can have this wonderful time together. But I've been organizing for about 20 years and I'm in this new season of kind of traveling around now that I'm an empty nester.
Wow, I love that. So you travel, how often do you travel, or is this a unique situation?
This is unique. This is kind of I'm an empty nester. I've traveled a little bit for clients before, but this time I'm like really seeking out opportunities to travel. So and it was because my pastor from Newport Beach, California, we lived there a couple years, and she called me and she was just absolutely in distress with the water damage, some things that happened. Of course, my whole 2 years living in Newport Beach, I organized my pastor's house. And that was my way of going above and beyond our tithe. You know, I tithe to the church
Oh.
and then we tithe our time. And so she called and said, I really need you. She was crying. And I said, okay, God, I told you, just keep bringing me work, show me where to go. I've organized in 4 states and moving the kids, following a husband's corporate job. So now that I'm turning 55, I'm starting to need a few more systems myself with keeping track of my time as I travel in 4 time zones in 2 months. So it's like, whoa, okay, I'm starting to get discombobulated.
Yeah, I could see how that could happen. Yeah, I have heard of other professional organizers doing a lot of traveling clients, and I think that's pretty neat. I thought maybe I would try to search some out in places where I actually have family members and start there first.
Yeah.
But that sounds very, very interesting. So, as a professional organizer, I noticed that your major mom. So, what do you specialize in? Did you start off doing a lot of military, or is major mom, where did that name come from?
Well, I was a major in the Air Force when I
Oh, okay.
became a mom. So my nickname became Major Mom. I'd get home from duty and my husband would run to the door with baby Liliana and hand me my baby girl. I'd be in uniform and he'd say, Major Mom is home. And then
Oh,
18 months, and this is why I travel with my Major Mom. You can't see it as well because of the background, but
oh
I
yeah.
travel with my Major Mom bag, my camo bag. And after 18 months later, then I had my son. I decided that military life and motherhood were no longer compatible for the kind of mom that I felt God was calling me to be. And
Yeah.
that really did not see that one coming, and neither did my husband.
Well, sometimes kids will do that. It's not until you have them that you have that pull, you realize that you really want to be there for them a lot more. That's awesome.
I
So,
know. And it was like I just told my husband I'm resigning my commission in the Air Force to be a stay-at-home mom. And he was like, what? And as God would have it all work out, um, God wanted me to get out of the Air Force because he was calling me to professional organizing. I didn't see it, I didn't know it. But once I started, I knew, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes, same with me. I had studied organizing since I got married and I was fascinated with it, but the way it was orchestrated was uh, absolutely God. It was completely no question. Because as soon as I started I'm only going to tell the punchline, but as soon as I started the Facebook page on Saturday to see if it would stick, that Monday, my supervisor and I were called into the office and said that we could either pick another position it, at the place we were working, but by November, the job was being eliminated. And my supervisor picked another position, and I ran with the organizing because I thought, this shoe was going to drop for a few years. And I finally focused on that Facebook page, and then that Monday everything changed. So I just knew it was God. That's so awesome. So I think I asked you this question and you did answer it, but now I don't remember what you said. But what is it that, because I know we cover a lot of ground as professional organizers, but what do you have something that you specialize in as a professional organizer?
Yes, you did ask me that question. So the reason why I became a professional organizer is because when I was a stay-at-home mom, I quit all my career, everything, and I
Mhm.
was doing play dates and hanging out with neighbors and a lot of civilians, and a lot of different types of personalities I haven't been around in a long time. And so, because I was in for 14 years. So these moms were so miserable with their homes, they would say really crazy things like, I wish my house would just catch on fire or just hit by lightning, or I'm just
Oh
so sick of all
gosh.
this clutter. And so I would say things like, well, I can help you with your pantry, or I can help you with your garage, like things, most organizers have been doing their whole life. And I always help my family, always my friends. And they thought, well, that's kind of weird. I don't think I want you organizing in my pantry, after the play date. And so then more and more moms that I met, I started realizing there's a lot of misery out there in the mama world, around stuff and clutter and overwhelm. And people think you should just, because you're mom, you should know how to organize and declutter. And I don't work with military folks. And quite frankly, I have some military girlfriends who will tell you they are the biggest slobs and disorganized. So it's really easy to stay organized in the military when someone's telling you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And so
And
Major Mom kind of
deadlines.
came around to help busy moms, their families, to tell the moms, here's what you need to do. And they love it.
Yeah, wow. That is awesome. Yeah, that was the reason I asked, is because I have seen a lot of YouTubers that were military wives, and that's how they started their organizing business because of moving all the time and certain things in their own lives as military wives, and that became their mission to help other military wives. So I thought
Oh,
that
yeah.
I would at least ask that question. But yes, busy moms, I think that's a real big one because, you're juggling your, some of them are juggling their career or just working full time. And, they have to go home and they're tired, and keeping their house in order is the last thing they want to do. Or some are not born organized. Some organizers are the same. They were not born organized, they became organized, so they wanted to pass along that skill. And then others have been organized their whole life, and they just, that's what their path became, is helping others. So I think it's very interesting. And I think it's great that there are so many different avenues for professional organizers. Some specialize in moves and
Yeah.
some there's so many specialties that you can go into as an organizer. I think
And
that's
that is really great for, for the world, for God's people, that, it is not a one size fits all. You've got to interview a couple organizers, even
Mhm.
for me, I'm really good at what I do. I get it done. And, but for a lot of people, they're like, oh, you work too fast. This is too fast. This is too much. It's like, hire my company if you're like, you want it done, get done, let's get it done. That's my style. That's how we work. That's how we roll. But then if I see like I'm not a good fit for somebody, they make slow decisions, they're kind of intimidated or not ready to really let go of things, they really need the process a lot better. I'll refer them to a couple other organizers in Indianapolis and say, you know what, I think Laura's going to be a good fit for you. Or, hey, you know what, Stephanie, she knows more about the value of all these things. So I'm going to have you work with Stephanie. So I think that the more the professional organizers know each other, the
Yes.
better we get it at educating the world, that you do need to find the right fit because we are not all alike and we don't think the same.
Hmm.
And just because you don't have a good relationship with your first professional organizer doesn't mean you won't have a lifelong relationship with your next one.
Right. There is, and that's what I would also say to organizers is if that client, you know, you shouldn't feel bad if that client is not your client. I know from when I was in what's it called? I want to say direct sales, where you go into people's homes. You know how Tupperware used to have these parties. I used to sell Pampered Chef, but there was a person called the Lemonade Lady, or I don't even know if it was from her. But anyway, the saying was, some people like vanilla cookies and some like chocolate chip cookies. If that person does not like chocolate, it is not a representative of the baker. The baker
Right.
may make the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, the best. But if that
Yeah.
person does not like chocolate, it's not about you.
That's what my pastor would always, my pastor in Lone Tree, Colorado, he would say, some Christians like fast food and some people like sit down. And what he's talking about is some people need to get in and out of church and some people want to steep in that praise and they want to do it. And the people who don't want to be there for 2 hours, they find a different church. It's not that you don't like the pastor. So it's like you
Mhm.
do learn to not take it personally and learn like that great saying. It's like, it's that it needs to be a really good fit because hiring a professional organizer and having them in your underwear drawer, sometimes I say, and
Oh
seeing
yeah.
all your papers, we're seeing things that their best friends don't even always know about, or their mom. They're showing us hidden secrets that they're ashamed of, and they don't need to be ashamed. Of course, we know that. But so yeah, you need to feel real comfortable with who you pick. And I think someone who is even, you could say, as a Christian and they believe in God and they think that's not a guarantee you're going to be a fit.
Right, right. Yeah, I love that. So I guess what we would like everyone to know is find the organizer that you're comfortable with, and the same with organizers. You don't worry and take it personal because your people will come. Your people are your people, and because I also hear a lot of organizers talk, new organizers talk about, well, are my prices too high or my prices too low? This person said this and this person said that, and really, and it comes with experience. It really, that's not even this isn't a negative conversation. It's just that with experience, you realize the ebbs and flows of your business. I had a party business that was very slow during the summer, but I did not know that. I thought during the summer the parties would ramp up. But once I experienced that year after year, and then after 21 years of party business, you didn't worry about that anymore because you knew summers were your downtime. Summer was when you work on improving your business, researching more things for your business, and working on your business during the slow times. Now as an organizer, do you have a slow time as an organizer? Some don't, but
Yeah.
some,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. I work with busy moms and their families. That's the, 90% of my business. So, right before school's out for the summer, it's like dead. They're
yeah,
so overwhelmed with the end of school year
and
activities and
all
the
those activities.
all
Yes.
the activities. Sometimes fall break is very, very slow. I don't know really exactly why, but I think it's sports related, but absolutely. When it's like, boom, when the kids have been back in school, so the whole month of August, it's like September, October, November get like this.
Yes.
And then you get a slowdown. So I would be very surprised if many professional organizers didn't have a little seasonal affect to their business, even in moving. You're gonna get peaks in the summer, and then it's gonna do a little this. But
Right.
I think every single business on planet Earth is gonna have that. And learning yours as a professional organizer is very dependent on, like you said, your target market. Who
Yes.
are you working with? And so then you don't get afraid. But
You don't
yeah,
start
the first couple of years
panicking.
you're like, is everybody else slow? And the other organizer's like, no, I'm as busy as can be. And you're like, oh no, I'm doing something wrong. And then you realize she works with a completely different target market.
Exactly. And there are things you can do to keep some finances coming in during that time. You've got to just figure out what that ebb and flow is and how you can pivot in those slow seasons to keep, things coming in. So, and all of that comes with experience. You learn as you go, and you can't be afraid to learn as you go. Um, because we're not
Right.
teaching perfection, therefore we shouldn't expect perfection in our business either. I mean, professionalism, but perfectionism is
Yes,
never, professionalism is a key,
professionalism is so important.
but perfectionism isn't obtainable. So that's a key. Well, awesome. I love that. Now, what is something I have not asked you about that you would love people to know? What's a myth?
Well, I think, yeah, there's so many myths in organizing. And if you go to majormom.biz, you'll see the Major Mom method. You'll see a lot of organizers, they have a methodology.
Mhm,
Julie Morgenstern used to be on Oprah, and she had a methodology in her book.
mhm,
And the myth, the greatest myth, I think, is propagated by the Container Store and Target and
mhm,
Amazon, and that is get the container first.
mhm.
I think that's the greatest myth
And
because
that everything's rainbow order, right? I mean, there are things, but it's not
it's
everything. It's not natural.
it's natural for a right-brained person who how it looks is more important than how it functions. And so that's what I mean. If you want me to do rainbow for you, I can do it. But
Mhm,
that's really I'm a left brain linear logical organizer.
mhm,
I am whole brain, but there are some very right brain organizers
mhm,
that will organize your snacks by colors, your clothes by colors, your things like that. I have a lot of people who are like, I don't want it by color altogether. I want within my categories by shades, so it's
yeah.
like they want the skirts, the shirts. They don't want
Mhm,
what you see on TV show. But the thing is that those they look pretty and they look fun. And that's what those clients wanted. And so that's what I say to organizers. Don't take on a client if you aren't high-end and know how to make all of those things look a certain way.
Mhm.
But the myth is if it looks pretty, it's organized.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to function for the person's lifestyle because I just did a closet and she wants all of her prints together instead of thinking, okay, this is mostly blue, this print is mostly green and fitting it into the, rainbow order. There are a few things. The only thing I do in rainbow order, I think, is clothes only because you're matching outfits and I like to do that. And then the other thing that I alphabetize are spices, just because it's easier to look through the, no, but everything else I really well, and I say everything else, but I really try to organize according to that person's lifestyle because if it doesn't work, it's not, then they've paid money and they are like, well, what did I pay for?
Right, because they can't maintain it. Like I only have two clients in 20 years that could maintain an alphabetized spice system. I only have two. And
Oh, well,
I
yeah.
had, I mean, they're very, very hard to maintain if you don't think of your spices that way. So, but there's
Mhm.
millions of people that works for. I just don't attract those clients. So my clients generally are, they'll say, how do you think of your spices?
Mm-hmm.
And two times in 20 years, they alphabetize them. But the other times they'll say, well, Mexican, maybe Indian, maybe Chinese, Japanese, they'll start giving me the cuisine names, Italian, they'll just give me lots of names. I'm writing down as fast as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I organize them by the categories that they say. And and if they don't have enough room for those categories, then we say, okay, well, which cuisine do you use the less? Because we can't fit all these spices, that you want to keep in here. They'll go, oh, well, we rarely ever do, such and such. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, well, we don't need to have those in the just the everyday kind of thing. So they have the everyday spices. So this is the fun part about organizing and talking is that if you hire a professional organizer and they want to alphabetize your spices
Mm-hmm.
and that seems fun, then do it. If you're like, I'll never be able to maintain that, then don't do it. If
Yes.
you don't want your clothes rainbow ordered, you want them a different order, then do that. And
Yes.
that's what you and I are talking about.
Yes.
How are you going to be able to maintain this? And
Yes.
sometimes I joke around with people. I'm like, I don't even have red and blue clothes. I don't have red, blue, green. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
have yellow. I
Yeah.
don't have rainbow colors.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have every color of the rainbow of clothes. It's because you just have colors you like.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. What I usually do is try to look at the way the mess looks. The
Yeah.
reason it's a mess is not necessarily because it's in the wrong place. This is usually where they put it. So I try to figure out, is it better to move it or is it better to just find a different system for where they already drop it, you know, an easier system. And most
Yeah.
of the time, decluttering will fix the problem. It's just that's a little harder to get people to. Sometimes it's a little hard to for them to let go of enough items so that it stays organized. So that's something that but that's okay because we can circle back. That's how I take it with clients. I'm like, okay, we will circle back to this when we finish organizing the whole home, and then we'll circle back to where we started and see if there's a new solution. That's the reason I like. Do you do a lot of whole home organizing? You do
Oh
most,
yeah.
yeah, you
Oh
do a
yeah.
lot of, yeah, because I love
Big
that
trips.
because you can circle back. It's not a one and
Hmm.
done. Did it work?
No.
half of it
Yeah.
worked and half of it might not have worked, or a third of it worked and you have to tweak. I love it because I can come back and tweak what didn't work. Because even for my
Yes,
own
because
organizing, oh, go ahead.
oh
Uh,
no, I was agreeing with you because
oh,
yes, because sometimes people will say, well, I just want, I have all this stuff in my dining room and my in my formal sitting room. And I just want to hire you to do my dining room and my formal sitting room. And it's like, well, that's great and that's what we're gonna do. But a lot of this stuff seems like it goes in other rooms. So by default, we're gonna have to figure out where this stuff is gonna go in the other room, which means you have to do something in the other room. It's like the whole the knee bones connected to the, and
yes.
every connection point is real and it has to be addressed. Otherwise you're just putting a band-aid on a problem.
Yes, exactly. So that's the reason I like whole home organization. All right, well, we've got 10 minutes left, so let's kind of transition. Now, as a busy organizer, what do you do for fun and what do you do to relax when when you don't have a client?
I Now that I'm turning 55, I like to do different things. And then when I was first starting off, I love hanging out with girlfriends.
Mm,
That is very therapeutic for me personally. To be in Bible study groups, to
mm,
be around other Christian women that can build you up
yes.
and attune to you and not try to give you scripture band-aids and things like that. So having real authentic relationships with women where you can be yourself in some of these Bible study groups is very, very important to me in my downtime. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't always have those kind of women around me. And then I have my, friends from high school and college who are just my party friends, right? We just go to dinner and, have a glass of wine and we just talk all night long.
Yeah, I love that
And
too.
that's what I
Just the
just did. And
talking. Just
I
go
just
to
did
dinner.
that last night.
I don't even mind hanging out at Denny's for a couple hours, just eating and talking and drinking coffee, whatever. It's nice to have that downtime where you're not feeling pressured to dress up sometimes. That's nice,
Yes.
but yeah, that's great. Now, here's another myth, and this is what I asked all of my guests, not just my organizing guests, but it's great when I ask my organizing guests, so because people will realize that we are normal people. What is one thing that you struggle with organizing? And it doesn't even have to be a big struggle. It can just be something small that you struggle with organization wise. And what are you the most proud of personally with your own personal organizing?
Well, I have a husband and two kids. So each season of life, and we've moved seven times since they were born. They're 20 and 21 now. So those moves they can derail you pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So I'll start backwards. The areas that I do the best are the kitchen,
Mm.
because every time we move, we got to get that kitchen rocking and rolling and, making
You
meals
got
and,
that system
everybody.
down.
Yeah. So the kitchen is always like, everybody knows where everything is in the kitchen always. And I get it set up pretty darn fast when we move. But the parts that have been really hard is the garage.
Oh.
So I, since well, when our kids were born, we could get two cars in our garage. Then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, they want a bike. And then they want, then my husband's like, well, we shouldn't pay for lawn service. We should get a lawnmower. So it's like, oh, well, I'd rather pay for lawn service and not have to store the lawnmower in the garage. He's like, is this about getting both cars in the garage? I'm like, absolutely. So the garage is kind of like this moment, like in California, we had a tandem garage. So it was like you had to park in front of each other. It was the most bizarre situation.
Wow.
And I told my husband, um, where there's no way we can do this. Keep pulling out, pulling in, and shuffling the
Yeah.
cars back and forth. So, and then really nobody parks their car in the garage in California, or very few people.
Hmm.
They turn their garages into more living space because the homes are so small out there. So I just gave up on that.
Mm.
And now in Indianapolis, my son's in construction. And I've given him one side of the garage for all of his tools and his sawhorses and his things. But
Mm-hmm.
I finally just put down when you're in the middle of a project, I don't mind parking on the driveway. But 60% of the year, I want my car in the drive or in the garage, and that's
Right.
winter and spring, like hail, snow, like those
Oh,
seasons.
yes.
There's definitely a certain time I'm like, I want my car in the garage, please. I would pay a lot of money for our mortgage and I want my car in the garage. And so, but then then there'll be like 3 months where I'm like, okay, all yours.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I would probably say the garage is probably the biggest struggle also because I used to have a party business, so all my party stuff was in the garage. I don't think we've ever had our car in the garage ever, and we've been married 35 years, so and the bicycles. Oh yeah, as an organizer, I wanted those bicycles hung up on a hook. Once they went up on a hook, we never rode them again. We recently took them down and we decided not to put them back up on the hook because we know how we are. And that's just how we are. There are many people that can put their bike and then take it down, but we just are not those type of people. I don't know what that is. Once it's up on a hook, it stays up on that hook.
Well,
Never.
it's out of the way, but is it functional? It's not functional because if the bikes are heavy, they're hard to get, you're like, you're gonna
Yes.
hurt yourself getting up and down. So, you have these moments of people can be so judgmental,
Hmm.
about what a garage should look like, what a house should look like. And I always say to my clients, um, you need to love your home
Hmm.
and it needs to serve you and function for you. So if that means no cars are in the garage, then that's what that means.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not about trying to impress the neighbors or impress people. What
Hmm.
is the point of impressing people? There is no point.
Yeah. And our purpose for the bicycles is to get a little exercise, which I know sounds counterintuitive. That's part of exercise could also be taking it off of the hook. But no, if it's not easy to hop on and go, we're not gonna get that exercise. It's
No.
it's really crazy. All right. Well, what is something? Oh, we are going to put all of this information in the description, but tell us all about how, if anyone in your area happens to see this video, how they can reach you, how they can have Major Mom as their organizer.
Yeah, they just go to majormom.biz and contact us, and you can fill out a request for a free estimate, and we'll give you a call. And we do all of our free estimates over the phone, with some video or just some photos. We stopped going into homes to do free estimates probably 5 years ago,
Yeah, I do
because
free home, I mean, phone. I do the phone, free phone consults. And
yeah, and driving around this every if you live in a city, it's too much time and gas. And since the pandemic, we got really good at doing estimates over the phone, and that's why we call them estimates. It's like, here's what we think it's going to cost. And a lot of times when we get there, it's like, oh, you left out this entire corner of the room in the
yeah,
in the video estimate. And they're like, yeah, I was too embarrassed to show you that. But it's like, well, that's going to affect the estimate. So, just that honest organizer, just like, here's,
yes.
it, everything we have to touch is a minute or a second. Like, so
Mhm.
our estimates are very related to the volume of stuff. That's just natural. And then the estimate is related to how fast you make decisions. And so I think people should always just be honest about that. You can't accurately ever know how many exact hours you'll be in there, but you should be able to have an idea. Or if they
Mhm.
have a budget, I say, okay, if you
Mhm.
only have $288, then we should do independence package, meaning I'm guiding you, I'm not even coming. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to get more bang for your buck from me tell you what to do than me
Mhm.
to drive there and do it, because we're going to burn through all the hours in one session. So I just try to work with where people are, because I say, okay, God, why did you bring me like 5 people this week that have no budget?
Yeah.
And the answer is always clear.
Yes. Yeah.
I because you're the right person for them and you're going to help them. And I'm going to bring you another client where, it'll be worth your time. And it's always just this beautiful circle of I take jobs that aren't really always exciting because it's like, okay, how am I going to get all that done for $200?
Yeah.
But then it's like, I'm going to work my buns off for this couple because they need me. And they'll figure it out after that. So, sometimes you just get a client that can't afford you and you just figure out how to make it work.
Yes, I just had a client ask me if I could do a DIY list of things that need to be done in her home that she can do as budget allows. And I did, I had not been asked that before, so I did quote her my thank you, Angela, for being on the podcast. I really do appreciate you. And we did get a little carried away and got cut off in the middle of a sentence. But I just want to let you know all of her information will be in the description. And we will see you on the next podcast.